everyone doing good because I am on this afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about the nose and the nasty. When I read that topic, I was like the nose and the nasty. I mean, it's common sense. So I wanted to dig deeper into it. Well, last week we were talking about how our senses play a role. We talked about sight and we also talked about hearing. So today we're going to be talking about the nose because the five senses are very important. It plays a huge role with our fleshly battles. Okay, so when I think about the part of the topic that say the nasty, me growing up, just hearing it, the nasty always referred to something sexual intercourse of some sort. And, thinking about it, our sexuality can be affected by the sense of smell. The Song of Solomon's, he point out a lot of information regarding smell in sex. And I know this topic can be kind of who really want to talk about this, but it's real. And this is what a lot of us are dealing with. Our nose can smell something before entering the brain because the smell is kin. So thinking about that, it's like, wow. So you mean to tell me my nose can activate something before it even come to my brain for me to think? So there are many studies that being exposed to a woman's body scent led men to a greater attraction to them. And, just being transparent, as women, the ones that have, I don't agree with having sex or doing anything sexual before marriage. However, in life sometimes this happened, and it has happened. Like before I got saved, I was not a virgin. So I had dealt with these things, and there's many of us that got saved and wasn't a virgin. So just being transparent. The smell of a woman's body during her ovulation period, men kind of find that more attractive. It attracts them more. The woman being more fertile attracts the men more. It's a scent that it's just a scent. It's the same scent, but sort of kind of a little thrown off. So you mean to tell me that a man he finds that more attractive, the smell of a woman's body odor? This is not some smell for instance, I like cheesecake. When I smell cheesecake, I want to eat some cheesecake. So this is like a smell that can arouse a man. So the body gives off odors that can make the opposite sex desire sex. Like what? It's real, and it makes sense because when you think about animals, I mean, you have a male and a female. When, they're in heat, when the female is in heat, the man can smell. I used to have dogs, pit bulls, and I can tell how, my dog used to act when she was in heat versus how the other dogs would be attracted to her. And I'm pretty sure it was a smell because she would be in the yard, and then her aroma would attract another male dog. So I can only imagine that it's true that, we as humans have the same thing in our nature. It's important that we stay clean. Now, I was like, I'm reading out of the book, The Struggle is Real. And reading that, it's like, I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, I would hope, a person want to stay clean, but it's important that we stay clean because certain body parts can give off similar smells of sex. And I can truly say that, sometimes, being saved now, I have heard of things in the past, of when I was in the world, I would simply hear things called wet dreams, or a man getting aroused in their sleep. Now, I heard this when I was younger, when I was in the world, but I never really paid attention to it because, I didn't really know the depth of it. But now knowing that our bodies can act off a scent. So you mean to tell me that I can be asleep, and if my body is giving off an odor that smells similar to sex, I can not be thinking about sex, not dreaming about sex, but yet wake up as if I done did something or thought about it? It's real. That's because the smell, our nose plays a major role in it. And our flesh works through our senses. And I remember last week, I'm sorry, give me one moment. I remember last week I was talking about hearing, and how hearing can affect certain things on our walk. And it's more so like, okay, me hearing certain songs, can make something rise. So when I think about smell, I was saying to myself, like, let me go back in a time where a smell really opened up something to me. So when I look back in my life when I was in the world, there's a certain smell that I like coming from a man, just being honest. And it wasn't a smell that you smell every day, but it was more so like when I did smell that smell, it made me more attractive to that person. So now knowing that my nose play a big role in me walking with God, I know how to use this as a fighting tool. Like, okay, I know that my five senses play a role, so I need not to do this. I need not to smell this. So when I started reading out of The Struggle is Real, I was like, okay, so of course the flesh works through our senses. We already established that when we talked about sight, seeing certain things, and how, we can hear certain things in our mind, make up this summary that can sometimes be true, but it's not. So, our nose. So testifying, I'm going to testify, when I used to, before I got saved, I used to wear perfume that more so gave off what I was looking like. I wanted to smell provocative. I wanted to attract. It wasn't one of those little cute little smells. It was more so it gave off sexy. So, it's good to keep in mind of certain things that we do wear and stuff like that. And it's like now being saved, I don't purchase certain perfumes just because I know that the scent can probably throw off a person. Because, listen, we all want to be saved, but sometimes it can wake up something in someone else. And, of course, I don't want to wake up anything in myself. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit out of the book because it's something that stood out to me. It says, have you ever noticed that men like to give women roses and flowers? Well, these two carry sexual odors. If we understand pollination and flowers, every time you smell a flower, you smell the sexual part of a flower, the male and female organs. So, like, as he broke this down in the book, I was like, okay. So it kind of enlightened me, so I kept reading. Okay, so it says, I'm sorry, I got to find back where I left off. Well, these two carry sexual odors. If we understand pollination and flowers, every time you smell a flower, you smell the sexual part of the flower, male and female organs. The stamen is the male organ, and the pistil is the female organ. The odor that you smell is, in fact, the plant having sex. Sexual reproduction of plants is carried in the flower. It is the stamen called the anthers. This produces the pollen grain, which contains the male germ cells, and at the base of the pistil is the ovary. Okay, so this explains why women's sexual parts is referred to as a flower, and you can find that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 36. Remember, every time you smell a flower, the odor is in fact the plant having sex. The flower is what produced through the plant's sex process. Songs of Solomon speaks of the lily of the valley. So pretty much, okay, if nobody really understood sex, I would say, Solomon did, because at the end of the day, he dealt with a lot of women, and he knew what turned him on, and he also knew what turned, a woman on. Many times that, in life we kind of play clueless about things as if we don't know what turned us on, and then that can kind of, mess us up, because in fact we act like we're clueless, but we know, but we don't really touch on. So then when this happens, we act like it's new. No, certain smells, can make you feel some type of way. And another thing that stuck out to me when he said flowers can be a distraction, and it's really not a good gift if you are not married. And I know a lot of people may be like, well, it's not a good gift. I love flowers. They're sweet, this, that, and the third. But now when I say when I was in the world, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing receiving flowers. You get what I'm saying? But when I was in the world and I got flowers, my mindset wouldn't be, if that's the person I'm dealing with, because when I was in the world, I looked at relationships different from when I got saved and stuff like that. So my response automatically, smelling these flowers, now knowing the knowledge behind it, I know why I felt a certain way, if that makes sense, not to get so deep into it. But we have to stop dealing with sex as if it's spiritual. Now coming into the church, I said to myself, man, I ain't gonna lie. When I first got saved, I've been saved for 2 years going on 3. When I first got saved, I thought everything was the devil. I didn't really know, the depth of flesh. I always say this before. So when I did, it was one season in my life that I was not going through anything far as like flesh battles. But then I started saying to myself, now why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling this way? I was like, oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Like, I was going ham at the devil, but the whole time, Alexis, it's you. So knowing that we cannot sit up here and just fast about something that's fleshly. No, you got to learn strategy, and you got to learn yourself. So me, I'm not finna be booed up with no dude, because I know me, and I know a certain smell that I like. So being that I want to be saved, I'm not gonna put myself in an environment that I know that I cannot handle. Now, many of us would say, I would never do anything like that. Never is a powerful word, because I used to always use never. Now, this is what I would use never in now. I would never say what I won't do, because it's been plenty of times that I said I would never do something, and I turned out to do that plus 10 times worse than what I said I'll never do. So dealing with this flesh, listen, we gotta get it together. Listen, I'm not finna sit up here and tell you, sis, you need to get on your face. You need to, it do give you, it's a humbling process, no lie, but you also have to use what I said before, a strategy to help you with living this life. It's not impossible or anything, because when I first got saved, like I said before, I thought everything was the devil, and I really didn't understand. But as I continued to learn myself, and then learn what's spiritual and what's not spiritual, now I can place my fleshly battles, of course, in flesh. Now I know how to deal with it. Okay, so now, thinking about the nose. The nose, when you smell food, like certain foods as well. Now, I didn't really know how true it was when I was in the world. I used to always hear, if you eat oysters a lot, mainly for men, if they eat oysters a lot, that it will do something, it will make them, a higher, stigma, a higher, it's a word I'm looking for. But anyways, it makes them feel more, I guess, sexual, I would say. It boosts them up in a way. But then reading out of The Struggle is Real, he touched on that. So I'm going to read, if I can find it. Okay. He said, for years, people have mentioned oysters and other seafood as an item that can promote sexual enhancement. He said, I don't believe it's the oysters themselves, but the scent they give off. So I kind of believe that too, because I love oysters, and I've been eating oysters since I was little. I never thought about sex or anything like that. So I really, really feel like it's the smell. Many may say it's seafood. Who attracted to seafood? This, that, and the third. But it's not even that. It's more so, it's a similar smell to what can enhance something. I mean, it's not literally the fishy smell or the sea smell. It's a certain smell that's in it, which makes sense, because if you actually sit there and smell a raw oyster, you can actually smell the similarities between, the smells of it. I'm not gonna say it, but you know where I'm going at. Okay, so that was pretty interesting to me. So like, as a sister in the church, it's like, okay, the way we see things in the world, I mean, you don't really, when I was in the world, I'm just going to speak for me, I didn't really see things for what it is now. So the things that I used to do, as in smelling provocative, well, I didn't really think too much. I was recently on Facebook, and it was just a post going crazy. Now, the generation we live in just talk crazy, okay? But however, it was a post talking about how a woman's vagina scent placed on behind her ear, where you spray perfume at, behind your ear, on your arm, so when you hug a person, they can smell the perfume. Now, it stood out to me and it sounded crazy, and when I looked at the post, I was like, now who would do that? So nowadays you have women doing that, putting their scent behind their ear, because it attracts certain men. And it makes sense. It's a smell that, I mean, it's like I'll say a bait, a mating smell, I'll say. So when I read that post, I was like, that's mad crazy that a person would want to do that. However, it happens, it's real, and it's shocking to me. And when I read it, I was like, okay. But now reading on the smell and how effective it is to us in our flesh, now it makes sense. Now, they did that to attract. Come on now, who want to put that smell behind the ear? But it makes sense that that's what they wanted to attract, and it will attract the man. If so, it's nasty, I know, but stuff is real. So, like now, looking at the 5 senses, I know that we had already talked about sight and hearing. Now, those two are kind of highlighted a lot, because that's something, when we see certain things, we feel convicted, or when we hear certain things, we feel convicted. But you never really highlight smell, because it's your nose. I mean, so I'll say, when I talked about, having the wet dreams and this, that, and the third, or being turned on while you're asleep and then you wake up to a mess or whatnot, it's more so sometimes we can feel condemned. We can feel like, we're not really saved, we're backslidden, and we don't really understand why. So when I read about, how our body can react off a smell regardless, which is so true, because, certain cologne, like when I was in a relationship, he smelled good. I could be around him all day long, but when he put on that certain scent, it kind of boosted up how I felt about him. I mean, it's just in our nature. So smelling we tend to say head turner, So I'll say, even with the smell, when you using all of the 5 senses together, okay, so we talked about, seeing and hearing. So if I'm around somebody that I'm attracted to and I'm seeing them, I'm already attracted to the physical. And then they smell good and they telling me the right words that I want to hear. So it's more so like all of those combined. And if you're not in that place that you're supposed to be, these things can really affect you. So listen, your 5 senses plays a major role on your walk with God. So now that I know this, is more so like, I know what to do with myself. I know myself. Now, knowing yourself is very important as well. I always say that, because you can't truly get help if you don't know what you need help with. If you don't know yourself, then can't nobody really help you because how you don't know yourself? How am I going to know how to help you if you don't know how to help you? So figuring out, okay, this smell right here made me feel some type of way. I remember I was going perfume shopping at Victoria's Secrets a while back, just getting certain little sprays. And it's certain smells that smelled, I'll say, sexy, and it was certain smells that smelled like, okay, high school PE smell, a little. So me, I kind of went over to the sexy sense because it was more so like I wanted to feel like I was a little older. I wanted to feel mature. I wanted that smell to smell mature. So knowing the certain scents we smell, you got to stay away from them because when I was in the Word, it woke up some things in me because I knew it did because I'm not finna sit up here and play dumb because I put it on right before, So it's like, okay, I knew that this will awake more in this person. So be real with yourself. I mean, ever since I came into the church, I'll say there has been some things that I did not want to discuss, but going to my pastor, asking him certain questions about things and him telling me, this is this and this is that. It more so was like, okay, you keep falling or you keep having these battles right here because you trying to do something spiritual, Alexis, and this is not spiritual, this is flesh. So you sitting up here trying to have a prayer meeting, but you continue to put yourself in a predicament to be around a person that you cannot handle. So that's why, I'll say, don't put yourself in a situation as being saved, do not go nowhere without a chaperone. Just don't do it. Listen, don't do it. It's not saying that you are not mature enough or anything, but when I tell you, this flesh is a mess. And we tend to always hear that saying, the flesh is a mess, the flesh is a mess. And, But it's not saying that you're childish. It's that certain things cannot come forth because of someone watching. Now, if it do come forth, then I'll say it's some bigger problems because, so if you do have a chaperone, listen, be real with yourself, sis. Okay, so don't put yourself in situations like that. Also, reminiscing on your past, I'll say. Reminiscing on the person you ain't got no business being with or stuff you don't got no business reading. I'll say I used to listen to R&B. So when I hear certain songs that's supposed to portray godly music and I hear that beat and it sound like silk, I don't need to hear it because that will wake up something in me and I don't want to hear no silk. So listen, everything that I'm saying plays a role with your five senses. So me hearing a beat that remind me of silk or Key Sweat, me seeing something I ain't got no business looking at and going towards it as if I can handle it, that's a no-no. Okay? So just be real with yourself. And to encourage somebody, I'll say, be real with yourself. That's all of us say, be real with yourself. Because, listen, what's spiritual is spiritual and what's flesh is flesh. And you liking him is not spiritual. That's you. So I'm always talk about a dude because, the nose and the nasty as a female, you wouldn't be, doing anything with the female. So I hope not. So, I'm talking about the nose and the nasty. So this is why I'm constantly talking about a dude because this is real and this is what sometimes we deal with. So I would say, in putting myself in now that I'm saved, it's more so like, okay, even though the people that's in my past are not all bad people, and that's okay, but they just mean me no good because I'm trying to be saved. So they can't truly relate to me. So going in that environment, even though they know I'm saved, and then me putting myself in that environment, it may just wake up something because this is what I used to do. So looking at that, I'll say I really want to be saved. So now I know will wake my flesh up. So to keep that thing down, I learned strategy. Listen, So strategy is going to help you on this walk. Being real with yourself is going to help you on this walk. And just continue to read out this book. It really gave me knowledge. And if you do want to purchase, one of the struggle is real by my Clayton. I'm so sorry, Lord. Apostle C.A. Cowart. You most certainly can, because it's very, it's very good, and it truly can help you, So me reading this and talking out of it is not only me trying to help you, but it's honestly helping me, see a different level of things. So if you do want to purchase this book and, follow along with me, you most certainly can. You can inbox the church page, and I'm sure they will get back with you, or you can just comment, and I'm sure that they will get back with you. However, if you want to live saved, you can live saved. There's levels to it, of course. I'm going to say just honest advice. It's levels to it. It's not easy, but it can be done. So if you just be real with your stuff and stop trying to put flesh as spiritual things and just separate the two and know how to deal with the two, and I promise you, you'll be all right. Because honestly, God is good, and he gave us, it's nothing that you go through that you cannot bear. God knew that. And anything that he put you in, he made an escape, which is amazing. So I just want to say you can do it. I can do all things through Christ. I know that God did not bring me here for no reason, and the same for you. You can make it. So in my conclusion, I'll say stay encouraged. Stop making spiritual things to be flesh, or flesh things to be spiritual. Separate the two, and sis, you'll be good. Enjoy the rest of your day.